the technology, we don't need to all be together to have good meetings.
Yeah, don't speak too soon. There's still a few minutes to go to the meeting.
That's true. There will suddenly be a total internet failure.
Yeah, fingers crossed we'll be fine. Right, I think it's 6 o'clock by the clock. I think we're all here. So we'll make a start, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. Can I welcome members of Cabinet and anybody else who's watching at home? And certainly there's 10 or a dozen members of council that are online as well. So if I could just explain that what I'll do as far as any comments or questions on the two items, the really two essential items that we got tonight, I would take members from the Cabinet questions first, questions or comments, if anybody wants to make any comment. And if there are any members of council who are online, and I know that there are quite a few, if you could use your blue hand, and Louisa Bright, who's our principal committee administrator, will in fact advise me on the order that those blue hands have gone up, and we'll take them in that strict order. So apologies for absence.
We have no apologies for absence.
Thanks, Louisa. Declarations of interest, item 2 by members. Are there any? No declarations of interest. So we'll go straight to item 3, which is the minutes of our meeting held on the 10th of November last. That's page 6 on the bundle.
Happy to move the minutes, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Councillor Thomas. And seconded by Councillor Martin. That's brilliant. Thank you very much. They were all prepared for Fran, who's going to be in Poland tonight. So Fran, I don't want to upset things by getting, but we've got it right. Okay. We're all right in terms of who moves and whatever. So is that agreed with the minutes?
Yep.
That's right. So lots of hands going up. Thank you so much. Item 4 are the call-ins. A verbal update will be given on any decisions which have been called in, and I think there have been none. So that's correct. Thank you very much. Item 5, items requiring urgent attention. Are there any items?
There are none, Chairman.
None aware of. Excellent. Thank you very much, Caroline. Item 6 is the public participation in accordance with the council scheme for public speaking at meetings of full council or cabinet. We allow members of the public to present petitions, ask questions or make statements, details of which have to be received by the council by 12 noon on the Monday preceding the meeting. Have there been any such requests this time?
None received.
None received. Excellent. So we'll move on to the two items now at 7.1 and 7.2. We'll take 7.1 first. And this is in relation to the medium-term financial strategy. We've had a lot of discussion about it, and we had a members forum recently as well, where we did invite all members to contribute and come along with their ideas. So pages 15 to 60 of the agenda, and they're supplemented by appendices that we've had circulated separately and electronically. There's been a lot of documentation on this one. But firstly, I would like to move the recommendations as set out in section 2 of the report on proposals for the budget strategy for 2021 to 24. The medium-term financial strategy report presents the cabinet budget proposals to balance the books, really, and following one of the most challenging years in Wyre Forest District Council's history. Council had already been facing a 1.7 million shortfall by 2022 to 23, and we discussed that quite a bit at the beginning of the current financial year and the one beyond, before the COVID-19 pandemic struck, and that's put extra demands and resources drastically reducing the income. We've had a lot of cash from government, but we've still got a fair shortfall to sort out, and that's down to us to organise. Although government funding has offset some of the costs of the pandemic, as set out on page 19, and in the table in paragraph 5.7, it doesn't cover all the costs and the losses incurred, and the funding gap is now forecast to increase to 2.6 million by the end of 2023-24. The provisional settlement issued just last Thursday by government has provided additional one-off funding for 2021-22 of another £684,000. But the new funding is very welcome, but it won't fundamentally change our funding position, as they're both 1 year only. And, you know, so much of that government funding is 1 year only. On the assumption that the extra costs or lost income are already in the base budget, this will simply serve to smooth out the profile of the currently spiky funding gap and hopefully provide a bit more time to implement savings plans. That makes the savings plans so crucial. Tables of rework figures will be included in the February reports, together with any other changes from the final settlement, because there may well still be changes, because the district council district council network are asking for to review the £5 limit, for example. Key points from the report: the proposal set out how the budget can be balanced in light of the additional strains on the council and have been shaped by public opinion. We had another amazing public consultation exercise, and people, whether it's because everybody's at home with lockdown or whatever, but they really are successful, our public surveys. And this one produced no fewer than 894 responses. I mean, I remember sitting on some of these discussion meetings in the past when you've had a handful of responses, but 894 from the district is a good response. And they completed the council's annual budget consultation, and we've taken these views into account in coming to these conclusions today. The report does not propose cutting any services. It puts forward options for how the council might deliver services differently in the future to save costs and protect frontline services, such as joining forces to deliver services in partnership with other local authorities or organisations. The results of the consultation that I mentioned showed widespread support for the council's proposal by the majority of those who completed the survey. A majority of 59% of residents said they would be prepared to pay more council tax for district council services, compared with 41% who were not. For any district council residents watching, that doesn't give us freedom to put there's a government cap on what we can and can't charge, and so. But it was interesting to see that so many members of the public were quite happy to pay more for their services. The impact of COVID-19 is shown in table 5.7 on page 19, and the extra costs there really are worrying. Welcome funding on the provisional settlement, but the knock-on effect is not going to happen until the next few years. So coming to our proposals, there are really just two cabinet proposals this year. The first is for an increase in Wyre Forest forward savings, where the target of 800,000 in 2021-22 and of 1.2 million in 2022 to 23 and 1.5 million in 2023-24. So over the next 3 years, we've got quite major tasks in front of us. Those targets which we're going to have to achieve because we've got to remain solvent as a council by law. We've got to get them sorted, and that's all detailed in section 6. And the page 34 at paragraph 6.2.1 is very important, and it sets out the detail in relation to the programme of work to be explored and implementing more shared services, alternative service delivery, and other planned transformation, which we'll be coming up with. The second cabinet proposal is for a further £200,000 capital funding to support the council's income generation work. We'll then touch on the staff pay and grading review, which is referenced in para 5.22 and 5.23. And it includes the impact of the council's decision, which we took a year or so ago, but to move to national pay increases with an allowance of 2% for pay inflation. That was a decision the cabinet took, if you remember, a year ago. It also reflects the forecast impact of the pay and grading review with implementation from July next year. Whilst this is highly likely to increase the staffing bill, it is Cabinet's view that staff should be suitably rewarded. And that couldn't have been better shown by the responses that we've had throughout COVID epidemic by our staff at all levels. Then it's the localism agenda, and on this one our colleague Helen Dyke has been leading with the Chief Executive, and thank you to the parish and town councils for their willingness to come to the table and discuss these crucial issues. So working in partnership with those councils will be a key part of protecting services within the communities that they value. The table at 619 on page 33 sets out rephase savings that we're working hard to achieve by collaboration and cooperation with the town and parish colleagues, and we're grateful to them for working together with us to preserve these services. On the funding gap, closing the funding gap to balance our expenditure with our income continues to be a significant challenge. It's going to rise to 2.6 million by 2023-24, and that's on page 42. Looking at our reserves, we are fortunate to have been able to increase our reserves over the last few years, and we managed to do that certainly last year, and that is some good news. And the £4.8 million available to help balance the budget gives us precious time to implement our savings plans. We can't use all our reserves in one go. We've got to keep some reserves to remain solvent as a council. We also hold a significant level of earmarked reserves as set out in paragraph 11.4. These stand at around £7 million as at the end of November, and this helps to protect our financial resilience. Government funding, the government has provided a raft of financial assistance initiatives to help businesses, the community and the local authorities through the pandemic, passported through our local councils. The table in 5.7 on page 19 of the report summarises the funding not passported to help compensate the council for extra costs and lost income. The provisional settlement confirmed the assumed council tax rise of £5 can proceed, although even more flexibility would be useful. And as I mentioned earlier, the District Council's network will be pushing hard for this. The extra funding announced is also welcome, but as it is for year one only, it will not reduce the funding gap in the year 2023, 24 and beyond. That's the worrying time. The risk and the need have nearly finished for those of you that, it's a long tail, this one. The medium-term financial strategy is set against the greatest uncertainty and resultant risks this council has ever faced. The cabinet proposals and detailed plans set out in the report will ensure the council can go further, faster, and to ensure financial sustainability. This will not be easy, and not all risks can be mitigated, but we will work hard to build on the impressive track record of the council to achieve the savings required, whilst also protecting services as far as possible. In conclusion, therefore, these proposals represent a realistic way forward that will allow us to balance the books in the wake of the most challenging period in the council's history. I would now like to ask for a seconder to the recommendation that I have moved. I've got Councillor Mrs. Zaborski.
Councillor John Thomas has raised his blue hand also.
Thank you. Turn your mic on, Fran. It's a long way from Poland to shout.
Can't shout from Poland. Sorry, happy to second the recommendation. I think, as you said, the government support and funding has gone a certain way, but it hasn't yet gone far enough. And of course, one of the gaps that hasn't been filled is the gap from the leisure centre, where the government are promising funding on losses from now until next March, but are not offering currently, I don't think, to refund the losses already made in this financial year. I think it's absolutely imperative that we have a medium-term financial strategy that looks to make our finances as a council as secure as possible going forward, and does the maximum to cut down on projected deficits. And therefore, I am happy to second this recommendation.
Thank you, Fran. Councillor Thomas.
I was going to second, Chair, but that's already been done.
Thank you so much. Any comments from you?
Fine at the moment, thank you.
Any comments from any cabinet member first? Councillor Dyke. Helen.
Yes, thank you. Just to echo your thanks, if I can, Councillor Ballinger, for the work that's been done in conjunction with us and the town councils. It's been very important. It's been in the main very positive, and I'd just like to thank them for all the work that they've put in from their side of things to be able to work with us to come to the conclusions we have, and to also echo your comments. There is still work going on in this area.
Yeah, and there've been a few good positive outcomes already, haven't there? And there's a lot of work gone into that and support all around. Thank you. Any other comments from any cabinet member? No. Any blue hands on there, Louisa, please?
There are no blue hands raised.
Excellent. Well, if there are no blue hands raised, it's been moved and seconded. Is that agreed? Yeah, that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Moving on to item 7.2, which is the capital strategy for 2021 to 31. Let's look at where we are on that one. Right, I'm with you. Here we go. Again, it's recommendations. It's agenda item 7.2 on pages 61 to 95. So there's 30 odd pages there of the printed agenda papers, and they're supplemented by further appendices that have all been circulated electronically. But again, firstly, I would like to move the recommendation as set out in section 2 of this report on proposals for the financial strategy for 2021 to 2031. So it's the 10-year strategy. It complements the medium-term financial strategy and also the Treasury Management Services strategy, and sets out the council's capital plans for 2021 to 31. Key points in the report are set out in Appendix 1. The capital financing requirement is forecast to rise from 40 million in 2019-20 to 58 million in 2023 to 24. I mean, that seems quite a substantial rise, but it's nothing when you look at what the Chancellor is having to cope with in the rise of his likely borrowing. External borrowing currently stands at 37 million, with internal borrowing currently being utilised for that. The Capital Portfolio Fund strategy and the Asset Management Plan have both been refreshed in Appendices 4 and 5 of this report, so they've been updated since it first was available. They've been done taking into account the latest Public Works Loans Board and the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government guidance in liaison with our appointed specialist advisors for the Capital Portfolio Fund. The table in 9.25 on page 80 shows that just over 17 million of the 26.5 capital portfolio has been spent or committed. The balance of around 9 million will be used to acquire property within the district based on the current policy approved by Council earlier this month. The Capital Portfolio Fund continues to make a modest net income to help ease the funding gap, and as set out in the table at the bottom of page 83. The impact of COVID-19 again has reduced the forecast net income for 2020-21, and this will continue to be carefully monitored. Risk management is obviously a key part of the strategy, and that is set out in detail over pages 86 to 93 of the report, with a risk matrix table specific to the risk management of the capital portfolio and the Development Loans Fund. And they are set out on pages 89 to 93. In conclusion, the capital strategy sets out the Council's capital plans for 2021 to 2031 and includes the Capital Portfolio Fund and the Development Loans Fund. It links to the medium-term financial strategy and the Treasury Management Strategy and is an important policy report. The strategy has been updated for the latest Public Works Loans Board consultation and has regard to all relevant government guidance. I would like to ask for a seconder to the recommendation that I have moved. And Councillor Borski, you're seconding this?
Happy to second. I think it's a very far-reaching strategy and hopefully one that will be extremely successful from the point of view of the council.
Thank you very much. Can I invite questions from any members of Cabinet on this strategy? No, that's fine. Any blue hands, Louisa, from those joining in the conversation?
There are no blue hands raised, Chairman.
No blue hands raised. Okay, so I will put that to the vote. It's 7.2 as moved and seconded. Those in favour, please show. Thank you. Again, that's unanimous. So that's those two items. I understand there's no other business, is there, that's been declared?
None, Chairman.
Thank you very much. We don't therefore need to exclude the press and public. So I shall just close the meeting by saying thank you all for either attending or viewing. Wish you all a very happy Christmas with your families, and let's only hope that 2021 will be more successful. But I can close by thanking our staff for the brilliant job they've done during the pandemic, and I would thank every one of them. Thank you all. Thanks very much. Happy Christmas.
Can I wish you
Yes.
all from Poland, Veszowie Wiat, Szczęśliwego Nowego Roku, which is happy Christmas and a happy and prosperous new year to you all.
Thank you, Fran.
I will now go and dress a Christmas tree.
Good night.
Thank you all.
Merry
Good night.
Christmas.
Good night
to you.
all.
Good night.
Good night.
Merry Christmas.
Bye-bye. Merry Christmas.